Good evening, everyone. My name is Raymond O, the Vice President of Student Affairs at American University. We are so glad that you're joining us for our session this evening. So welcome to the listening session with President Jon Alger, and it's planned for AU parents and families. This session is part of President Alger's listening tour, where he seeks to learn more about the AU community, gather feedback, and shape his vision for the university's future. And we are thrilled that you are joining us this evening. Before we get started with some housekeeping details, I just wanted to acknowledge members of the President's Office for making this night possible, specifically Lindsay, Emily, Stephanie, and others. And also from the new student and family programs team, Chris Hensley, Samantha Caruth, couldn't have made it this far without your help. And also Julie Gibson from Student Affairs, our digital content coordinator, and everything administrative and electronic for all of us. And also my AVPs, Dane Hutchison and Jeff Brown. Thank you so much for making this evening possible. To ensure a smooth event, please note the following. This session will be recorded and posted online for others to access. If you prefer not to be recorded, please turn off your camera. Closed caption is enabled for accessibility. Participants, we ask you to mute to minimize background noise and disruptions when not speaking. And the format will go as follows. President Alger will ask 4 questions, and after each, we'll have approximately 10 minutes for discussion, and I will be facilitating that section on the President's behalf. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature found under the react option, and you'll be placed in a queue. When called upon, you'll be unmuted to share your thoughts, and we'll continue this process until it's time to move to the next question. If you are called upon and you are unable to respond, we will move to the next person and place you back on mute. Please lower your virtual hand after you've spoken. And the chat function is enabled for you to communicate with the host during the session. And we really look forward to your comments and to engage with you in this important conversation. It is now my pleasure to introduce the 16th President of AU, Jonathan Alger. President Alger is an experienced and visionary higher education leader who spent the last 12 years as president of James Madison University in Virginia. Under his leadership, JMU created and implemented a bold and visionary strategic plan focused on engaged learning, community engagement, and civic engagement. President Alger previously served as a vice president at Rutgers University and has also held positions at the University of Michigan, American Association of University Professors, and U.S. Department of Education. He is a nationally recognized scholar and speaker on higher education policy and law, and a national leader in civic engagement in higher education. President Alger and his wife, Marianne, met, married, and baptized their daughter, Eleanor, just down the street from AU. So joining the Eagle community has been a homecoming for the family. Please join me in welcoming President Jon Alger.
Thank you, Raymond. I really appreciate that introduction, and thank you all for joining us tonight. We're so glad to have this time with you. I just wanted to share a couple of comments before we jump into the meat of the discussion about the purpose of this listening tour. When I started as president at American University, I really wanted to model the skill of lifelong learning and of active listening, which I think is perhaps the most undervalued leadership skill of all. I think it's really important as president of the university and thinking about the vision and strategic planning for the future to hear from all the different constituencies, both on and off campus. And so that's what I've been busy doing these first couple of months at American University, is trying to meet with as many groups as I can to hear their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations for the future of American University. And all of this feedback, by the way, we are taking careful notes and looking for common themes and specific ideas that will then help us as we move forward with our strategic planning and visioning for the future. So these aren't just idle conversations, but the feedback is very helpful to us as we think about shaping the strategic plan going forward. One specific initiative that I did want to mention before we jump in tonight that you've probably read or heard about at least a little bit is something called the Civic Life. The Civic Life is a new initiative that we are starting this year to really focus students on thinking about not just what are their rights in a democratic society, but what are their responsibilities as engaged citizens to and with one another. It's really important at a university, of course, that we bring together people with different ideas and perspectives and backgrounds. We don't expect everyone to agree. That's, of course, what makes a great university. But how we engage matters. And I think it's really important for our society and to model for democracy how diverse people can come together and live and learn and work together productively and in peace. And if we can't model that on a university campus, I don't know where it's going to happen. So the idea of the Civic Life Initiative is really to build the skill sets that students, as well as faculty and staff and all community members, need to be those active and engaged citizens who will use their education, their gifts, and their talents to make a positive difference in society. So you'll be hearing more about this initiative as we go forward. We're going to have a presidential speaker series. We're going to have this incorporated in the curriculum, as well as in the co-curriculum, and working with students and families and other community members in all sorts of ways to try to emphasize these skills of engaged citizenship as we move forward. And I'm really excited to hear thoughts and ideas from all of you about how we can do that. So with that, if we could turn to the first question, the way this will work is we have 4 different questions that we will throw out to the group for your consideration to prompt ideas and feedback for us. And so here's the first one. What makes American University distinctive and unique, and how can we build on those strengths and attributes? It's so important that we think about the identity of our institution and its strengths as we think about the crowded higher ed marketplace and how we can most stand out as an institution. So that's the first question. If we could, Raymond, open it up to hear from folks with us tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, President Alger. And for those of you who are open to answering that question, please let us know, and we will put you in queue.
And don't be shy. When we have these live on campus, we're not afraid to call on people because this is a university community, but we'd love to hear from folks. By the way, at the very end, we'll have a few minutes. There are a couple of questions that have been sent to me that I will be responding to at the end. But here's the first question. As you're thinking about it, again, there are reasons, obviously, why families and students chose American University. We'd love to hear, why is that? There are so many options in American higher education. What is it that made AU stand out as being different and distinctive?
So it looks like so far no one has raised their hands as of yet. So again, what makes American University distinctive or unique? Or what might have been some of the attributes that attracted you and your student to coming to AU?
I see it looks like some participants have raised their hand now.
Oh, looks like there's a comment in the chat. The number of experts that AU brings to campus, ambassadors, and tours. Great. And it looks like our first person who would like to comment is Linda Bonus.
Hi. So, in terms of answering this question, I think I really want to answer it more in regards to why my daughter selected American University. So, one of the things that I think American has is that it is where it is located, and that it is located in a large city, a very exciting city to be in. But it's also a very safe and well-regarded school academically. So my daughter was very excited. She actually plays field hockey, and there's an excellent, so the excellence in athletics for the field hockey team specifically. And then also, I think she wanted to study science, and knowing that the classes were smaller in size, she's physics major. She loves that, you know, she was able to connect with all of her professors, and the physics program was one that she was really excited about. So I would say those are kind of the things that, from her perspective, made American University distinctive.
Terrific, thank you. And yeah, the field hockey team is terrific. Great. Congratulations to her. Okay, Raymond.
Thank you so much, Linda. And thank you so much, Linda. And I want to also share that in the comments, someone has mentioned my son is a transfer student and he wanted to come to AU because the student body was so kind and welcoming when we toured the school. I know that it's not fair for me to comment, but I will second that. I think we have a very welcoming and kind environment, and the students are incredibly nice and considerate. In fact, I had the privilege of meeting all of the transfer students during orientation and welcome week this week. So I probably met your son, and we do have a very welcoming environment at AU, and that's what attracted me to want to work here. And it looks like Lustina Grigoriadis. Lustina Grigoriadis is next.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Justina Grigoriadis. We, as a family, have a tradition of being alumni at AU. Myself, I graduated at WCL 1996. My husband graduated an MBA 1995, and now our children are at AU. My daughter just graduated an undergrad in marketing and finance, and is doing her master's, and my son is at SIS. And the little one is thinking just to join, currently thinking about Kogat Business School. We have all selected this school because of the wonderful diversity, the welcoming committees, the programs that are offered, and the wonderful location. We visited the campus and we were impressed of all the facilities and most likely of the welcoming of the people. My son at SIS had a very hard time to choose between the schools. He's very athletic, and the person who did the tour was an athlete that came from California, so he was impressed with the athletic facilities as well. So thank you all for the hard work that you are all putting into this.
Thank you, Justina.
Thank you so much, Justina. And we have Anton Gon next.
Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. Our daughter is a sophomore at American, and we looked at a lot of schools. We are in the South, in the deep South in South Carolina. But one of the things, or several of the things that attracted us to AU was first and foremost the organizational leadership. And when I mean organizational leadership, President Burwell and I formerly worked together at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So I got the opportunity to meet several of the deans and other leaders at the institution. It was incredibly impressed with the attention and the focus on getting things right as it relates to diversity. Having a diverse leadership team also attracts a diverse student body, a diverse faculty. And so that element of diversity was a high priority on our list and added value to us. The second thing is, of course, proximity in Washington, D.C. The number of luminaries who can visit campus, lecture on campus, provide access to opportunities for the students. And my daughter is in SIS and is highly interested in taking advantage of every opportunity that's there. So that was an asset to us. The third thing I would say is something that has been echoed by everyone else: the warmness and the hospitality that we received immediately on our tour that we took before she accepted back at American and decided to come to American, as well as her first weeks on campus and how she quickly integrated. And she came home for the summer break and said repeatedly how much she loves her school. That level of passion and excitement and commitment to the place you have chosen to go to undergraduate school is pretty important and pretty impactful. And I'm just grateful that that investment has been made. The facilities, the campus, the safety and security of the campus, and the section of Washington, D.C., where it is located is an asset. So I think all of those things are phenomenal. And I would say just continue to keep doing the great things you're doing.
Great, thank you. And we certainly like hearing about our students' experiences and certainly are striving to create that kind of environment for all of them. That's good to hear.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. Now it's time to move to the second question. Can we change the slide?
All right, and so you see here the second question: how can we build our capacity and resources to address the big challenges facing higher education and the world in the 21st century? We know we are producing students who are going to be facing some real world significant challenges that cross academic boundaries of all sorts, right? So what are some of the ways in this crowded higher ed marketplace that we can build our capacity and resources to address those challenges? You can see these are very simple questions, but we really appreciate some big picture thinking here.
And we would encourage you to either use the chat function or to raise your virtual hand to answer the question. While we're waiting on that, it looks like someone has written in the chat. Diversity, again, is celebrated, and that's an attribute to coming to AU. I couldn't agree more about that being a shared goal.
And while we're waiting, Raymond, I might just note one of the things we've heard repeatedly on the listening tour related to that is, of course, the need for increased financial aid. We want to make sure that students of all backgrounds can come to American University and thrive here. And so that's certainly something that we've heard loud and clear in these first few weeks. Other thoughts about building capacity and resources? Oh, I think I see a hand, Raymond.
Yes, it looks like Stephanie Rangel has raised the hand. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Again, it's great to meet you. I just wanted to share that my daughter had the privilege of being in the Cornerstone program, which is comes in as freshman and able to do an internship her second semester, which was really amazing for her. She did a Hilternship. She got to be in Capitol Hill and do that, and that led to a summer internship as well back in LA, where we're from. And that was really awesome, but I think it was difficult for many, I think, in the program to get internships. It is very early, it is very quick, but I think just whatever you can do to, I think, like, support those students to really, and I think they tried, you know, to create a resume and do that, but I think she had luckily a little bit of a, you know, she's a fiery person and had a connection she had made sort of to the side, and that led to something and she had to pursue it. But But I do think that those early connections to working in industries and getting chances, and I think AU is amazing at that, but I think just something the most you can do to kind of scaffold them, especially at a young age, for some direct help to get to those is what I could see.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. That's very helpful. Yes, we have a lot of students who, of course, are very anxious to do internships and have other forms of experiential learning. And it is one of the things that draws people to AU. And I have to say, based on these first few weeks, it seems to me that AU really is a national leader in that respect, but there's even more we could be doing.
Thank you so much for that feedback. And it looks like the next person with their hand raised is Mrinalini Mazumdar. I just want to make sure Mrinalini Mazumdar is available to speak. I'm not sure why we're unable to hear you. We're going to go to the next individual, Seth Kahan.
Hi, my name is Seth Khan, and my daughter Ruchi's in her freshman year at AU, and I'm very proud to have her there. I work in Washington, D.C. as a consultant. I was at the World Bank for 13 years. There's a lot of organizations in the local area that would want to contribute to some kind of a think tank or brain trust, looking at the changing needs of higher education in the 21st century. The Brookings Institute comes to mind. I would think that you could network through students, faculty, parents, and put together an excellent group to dedicate some, deep knowledge sharing in this space, and that could help. That's my idea.
Thank you. And yes, those partnerships and collaborations are extremely important here. And we've again been talking to a lot of people about how we can take those to an even greater level. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it looks like we have something in the chat function. Ensure that all courses have a focus on the following 4 skills: critical thinking, problem solving, data mining, and verbal communication skills. Wonderful. This reminds me of some of the things that we are doing around AI, for instance, to weave it into all CoGOD courses. So thank you so much for that feedback. Next person is Shiva Saram.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this listening tour. I would really suggest that we almost go back to the basics when trying to answer this question, which is that we've got to build our capacity in terms of faculty. We all, I think, leave high school thinking about, the AP English teacher who really helped us think through a certain book or a passage or, a piece of our identity that, ended up coming alive in some writing that we did in that class, or, a AP calculus teacher that helped. So what I'd love to see is some data actually. And I'm sorry that I don't know the answer to this, but do we have data on our faculty and how top-notch they are, or where frankly there's some room to build capacity there? Because it would be nice for the AU kids to be able to walk away at graduation and say, Professor Smith, just always going to remember that class. I just don't know how much of that we actually have. So I guess I'm throwing the question back to you. Do we, what's sort of the evaluative process? How many of those stellar, astounding, life-changing, mountain-moving professors are we investing in?
Well, that's a good question. We'll take back to the team sheet. Of course, I'm new, so I'm just learning that myself. But I do know we have a lot of data certainly about our faculty, and they are world class without a doubt. That's one of the reasons that I came to AU, and on all sorts of measures of productivity, but also student satisfaction. I know there is a lot of data. I'll just mention one quick aside. I couldn't resist when you mentioned AP classes and that sort of thing. I was home from where I'm originally from, Rochester, New York, this past weekend for my father's memorial service. And two of my high school teachers that were among the most inspirational that I had came to that service. Now, keep in mind, I graduated from high school quite a few years ago. But here were two teachers that I've kept in touch with all those years, and that shows you the power of that faculty-student relationship. And that's one of the things that does differentiate AU. We keep hearing about, it's the faculty who really care about teaching, not just to be here to publish books or do research, although, they're doing great research, but they're involving and engaging students every step of the way. Raymond, do we have other hands up?
Absolutely. It doesn't look like we have other hands up, but it looks like we have another comment. Continue to build on AU's international programs and campuses. Higher ed industry in some other countries is growing at faster rates than the US. With this, building capacity abroad can build resources throughout all of AU. Thank you so much for that comment. It looks like we are ready to move to the next question. And while we're doing that, I just want to mention another comment has come through in the comments. AU's amazing majors that are overlapping, like the CLEG major, Communication, Legal Institute, Economics, Government, groundbreaking compared to others that have political science or government. So getting those kind of cross-discipline majors are special. And as a non-academic, everyone, I work in student affairs, I can tell you the CLEG major is one that faculty, staff, and parents talk about all the time. So absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Raymond. So you see that the next question here, how can we take this institution to even greater heights, and how can we serve our students, community, and nation even better? And this gets, of course, to the multiple roles that are played by American University. Of course, we want to serve and prepare our students for their futures. We also are not the isolated ivory tower. We are engaged as a university with the community around us and the nation, and dare I say, the world as well. Some of you have mentioned international, and that's an important component here at American University, are the international and global relationships as well. So thinking about how we can serve students, the community, and the nation even better. Thoughts about that? Well, while people are thinking, I might just mention one of the things that we have been talking about already in terms of community engagement right here in DC is to help students think about what it means to be good neighbors with the people around us. We have significant relationships with some neighborhood organizations in the community that care about Washington, DC, and care about our environment here. And we want students, likewise, to think about how they can make a difference in the community right around them. A lot of that happens through classes with community service learning. Many student organizations are very involved working in the community, but to make sure that it's a reciprocal relationship in which we are participating with the community to address real world problems. So that's something that we're doing locally, but also, of course, students are doing that through internships and through study abroad and other programs as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, President Alger. It looks like in chat, some suggestions include bring in more speakers, many topics, many culture and specialties. And I can tell you from my vantage point that that is something we're always working on, and each of the schools are constantly looking at inviting different guests, different panelists, but wonderful suggestion. Thank you so much. Also increase research and PR around the findings, especially on our faculty. Couldn't agree more. And it looks like we have the next speaker is Karen Povsky.
Hi, thank you for doing this. It's great to be able to participate in something like this. I think one of the ways that we could serve our students, which would therefore serve the community and the nation better, would be to, and I think you touched on a little bit, to promote civil discourse and teach students how to communicate with each other about difficult topics. And in conjunction with that, I think making sure that our faculty are providing accurate information to our students in the classroom, outside of the classroom, at events, and that we're sharing all sides of an argument so that students have an opportunity to hear the facts and to make choices on their own rather than hear one side of any particular argument. I think it can be true of any of the schools at AU, but certainly the School of International Service, we see that happening a lot of important speakers, a lot of focus. It's one of the things that makes American University special. But if we aren't sharing all sides of these stories and we're not providing all the facts, then we are doing, a disservice to our students, which translates later in life to a disservice to the community and the nation. So I think we are particularly poised to take that on, and especially with our proximity to our lawmakers and things, and make sure that our students are better prepared than any other students to go out into the world and be able to determine fact from fiction and share ideas with people they don't necessarily agree with.
Thank you, Karen. And that absolutely is a major focus, as you'll see with the Civic Life initiatives, that emphasis on civil discourse. It is something I believe in so strongly. We're an educational institution, and that's our mission, right? To teach students the skills of how to communicate and learn based on facts, research, evidence, and I would add respect, approaching issues and problems with both intellectual honesty, but also intellectual humility and curiosity, because all of us have a lot to contribute and all of us have a lot to learn in this environment. And our speakers in the series, which will be called Perspectives on the Civic Life, that is exactly the kind of thing we're looking for, is to bring different perspectives to make students think deeply about issues, and also to build the skill of information and data literacy, which is so important in this age of social media. Thank you. Raymond, do we have?
Absolutely. Yes, we do. And also just want to mention someone else also recommended increasing advertising, mentoring, and opportunities to work with professors, internships, and community engagement. And another individual commented that they couldn't agree more about dialogue across differences, across party and cultural lines, and to be community oriented. And from my student affairs lens, I have to say that this is music to my ears, because sometimes we have students who struggle even talking to roommates one-on-one. So absolutely knowing how to engage with one another across differences, to have difficult conversations, is what we hope to equip every AU students with. It looks like we have another person who has raised their hand, Linda Bonas.
Hi again. So I very much agree with what Karen said previously, just to ditto that. But I don't know the statistics of what you have done in terms of renewable energy and such, but I think one way to make a difference in the community and for the students and our nation, and again, because I have a student who is in the sciences and thinking about this a lot, is to improve ways of using renewable energy on campus, and also educating students on how to make that happen in the areas where they have some influence. So it's, I know that there's a lot of recycling bins around campus and things like that, but bigger picture sorts of ways that that area and through science, some of the renewable energy can be addressed. So.
Thank you, Linda. And of course, probably many of you know that AU is actually a national leader in sustainability and was the first campus in the country, if I'm not mistaken, Raymond, to be carbon neutral, which was a really significant
Yes.
development for an urban campus in Washington, D.C. So, but I know that the faculty and staff and students are not resting on our laurels at all. We're really constantly asking that question of what does sustainability look like as we think about the future. So a great point and a story we need to tell, because I think it is one of the distinctive strengths here.
Thank you so much, President Alger. It looks like we have a comment, a suggestion providing platforms for students that are neurodivergent to feel confident, to have their voices heard so they can go out into the world to make change. Let me just comment quickly. I couldn't agree more. I know that we work very closely with our department that supports students who are neurodivergent, but also I think being very mindful that perhaps we can do even more to ensure that they not only feel that sense of confidence, whether it is through student organizations or direct advocacy, or more general education for the rest of the community. So absolutely, I think those can take AU to greater heights. It looks like we are almost ready to move on to the next question.
Okay, so here's the final question we wanted to share with all of you. And you can see that this is asking all of us in our community, including families, how would you like to be involved in the civic life effort? And how do we develop better skill sets in engaged citizenship? So again, in terms of skill sets, we're thinking about things like communications, teamwork, leadership, ethical reasoning, data and information literacy, working across differences of all kinds, problem solving. These are skill sets. There's a lot of research that shows that these skill sets are important, not just for success in careers, but also in life more generally, and certainly to be civically engaged and effective. So these are skill sets that produce lots of benefits to students, and they do require practice. So we'd love to hear from families and others in our community about this. How can we work on this together? Because there is an urgent need, I think, in a society where we're dealing with deep polarization, mistrust and distrust of institutions of all kinds, including colleges and universities. So would love to hear thoughts about how you or families in general might be involved with this effort.
Thank you so much, President Alger. And it looks like Karen Povsky has raised her hand again.
Hi, I don't want to monopolize things, but while we wait for other people to think about this, I would certainly be happy to help in any way the university needed. My suggestion is that that in addition to all freshmen or all first-year students taking some sort of course in this type of thing, I would suggest that all students should have to have a seminar or something at this point, so that it isn't just starting with our first years. We have students, 3 other years of students to work with, and that would make a huge impact. I would also think that making sure that our faculty are modeling this for our students is going to be an important thing for us to do. If a student sees faculty modeling behavior that doesn't support this idea, they not only get the idea that perhaps that's an okay way to discuss things, but also that it's what AU believes in, that these faculty represent our beliefs and represent the university's beliefs. And so making sure that faculty are well trained in how to model this behavior, and then making sure all 4 years of students, at least for now, until we get to the point where it just the first years can do it and it covers the whole university, would be great. And I would certainly, as I know many other parents would, be happy to support with any other ideas that we could, because I believe we all think this is very important based on the way the world is these days.
Thank you, Karen. Really appreciate it. And I should have mentioned too, this does involve, as you said, all of our undergraduate students, but also our graduate students as well. So this will be a university-wide effort. Raymond, do we have others?
Yes, we do. We have someone in the chat, someone just commenting, would love to have a parent component to your civic life initiative and work in any way that would be helpful. And this individual works in local government and would be particularly interested in rebuilding trust in institutions and neighbors. And if I may also personally add, President Alger, to what the speaker said earlier, I think not only faculty, but also staff to model the type of dialogue and civic engagement would be critically important as well. It looks like our next speaker is Anton Gunn.
Thank you. I personally am a leadership development practitioner. I help Fortune 500 companies and small businesses develop a culture around leadership and civic engagement. So I think a big important part of this Civic Life campaign is to make sure that there is a leadership development curriculum specifically in every major for faculty and staff. And so investing in the professional development, not allowing students who are interested in it to do it, to be the only person involved in it, but really making sure that it becomes a requirement, an escalating requirement around graduation to be prepared with these skills in civic life. I echo the call about restoring faith in government and having that be a part of it. But if we make sure from the freshman year through your senior year through the graduate programs that there's an escalating curriculum of leadership development and also having that same level of investment in faculty and staff, I think it would go a long way. And I'm happy to be involved, actively involved in shaping this. I've done this for a couple of the higher education institutions, particularly in academic medicine, but I'm happy to be supportive of any way in making sure that we build this along.
I love the fact that, Raymond, we're getting some volunteers tonight, and I don't want to lose that. So hopefully we've captured the names, but at the end, you'll see also we will put up an email address, and I would encourage those of you that would like to be involved to also send that information to that email address to make sure we capture it. That would be fabulous. Do you have some
Wonderful.
other?
And it looks like Christina Fowler is next.
Hello. I just wanted to reiterate some, I've agreed with a lot of things that people said today. But in terms of this subject, it's almost like going back to the basics. So thinking about how you raised your kids, with faith being part of it, community service being part of it. And I would add on to that school spirit. That's something that I've heard from my student, that there's just not a whole lot of school spirit at American University. So those would be those three attributes that I would apply to this question.
Thank you. Yeah, we've heard a lot about building that sense of school spirit and tradition. Of course, we don't have a football team the way some institutions do, but there's so much that we have here in Washington, D.C., and so many traditions and things that we can build upon or create. But that is important in terms of bringing people together. I think, Raymond, we have another hand or two, it looks like.
We do. And by the way, we don't have a football team, but we have a really darn good women's volleyball team. So let's all go out and support them. It looks like Alyssa Hartman is next.
Am I muted? I can't tell. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I apologize. I joined the conversation a bit late. I couldn't get here sooner, but I just wanted to say, as far as being involved in civic life, I think the notion of inviting parents in as conversational partners is a fabulous way to accomplish involving families. And as those, of course, that are paying the lion's share of these fees, we couldn't be more invested in the civic life there at AU. And there's so many amazing things going on. But I mean, I would love to hear some outreach, like, wow, we've got all these student demonstrations on campus here. I wonder how parents feel we're doing with handling this complex situation, or we're having some active shooter on campus or something. I'm just randomly brainstorming, but I wonder if parents are comfortable with how things, shook out in that incident or that episode. Maybe they have ideas they'd like to share for the future on that. So I just think reaching out to parents as often as possible in ways when it seems practical to get their feedback and input would be great. And it sounds like there's lots of parents that would be more than happy to contribute and have lots of different areas of expertise to do so.
Thank you, Lisa.
Sure.
I think, Raymond, looks like there are some other hands up.
Yes, and if I may also just comment briefly, President Alger, Alyssa, thank you so much for that feedback. In fact, we have more webinars coming up, and we are always thinking about additional ways to reach out to family members, but your point is well taken. And we are thinking about some new strategies as well. So thank you so much. And it looks like Shiva Saram is the next person.
Hi, I really want to piggyback on this notion of school spirit. I think the whole piece around customer service is something we need to keep in mind, even in academia, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a supply demand issue. It's a customer service issue. College is so expensive these days. The kids are so brilliant, right? I mean, we thought we were brilliant. These guys, get a 1,500 and they're like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't get a 1,550. So, we have to compete. If we want the brightest students, we have to have really, really stellar faculty. We have the campus, we've got the city. We need, the facilities to be beautiful, and the grounds are. I think there's some work to be done in the dorms, but the school spirit. When I find campus, and I'm sorry if I'm sharing this in an environment which maybe you're hoping will be a little bit more positive, but I don't see a ton of kids wearing AU sweatshirts. And so I think that we really need to work on the school spirit piece, because at the end of the day, all of your alumni, all of your current parents, and I'm a senior parent, right? My kid's on her way out. But we have a lot to offer to the school. The obvious being donations, but obviously as alumni parents and a soon to be alum, there's so many ways that we can help bring lecturers in and help support, growth of the school. But at the end of the day, we have to be bought in. And so, make me want me to wear my AU sweatshirt, right? And how do you do that? Well, you have a stellar events, and that's what, frankly, our competing schools do. So we may not have a football team, but where's the marching band? Right? Like, where are the balloons? And they're not environmentally friendly. So whatever the latest version is, but let's my first parent weekend, was 3 food trucks with really long lines. That's not customer service. So I feel like I'm being really shallow and mean, but I believe in AU, and I think for us to reach our full potential in what is a very competitive landscape out there compared to other schools. I love that my fellow parent here talked about school spirit. I think you got to start there.
Great, thank you. And it is something that we are focused on. I can tell you the orientation this year, and Raymond, I know this was your area, but it was deeper and more involved and engaging than I think what we've ever had before, and trying to build some new traditions right from the beginning. One in particular that I encourage students to do, so this is something you can encourage as parents as well, is opening doors, literally. It's something that at my former institution we practiced as a campus when people were around, to open the door for one another, because it's a reminder of what the university does for its students, opening doors of opportunity to the future. And it reminds you that you're part of a learning community larger than yourself. So that, it may seem like a very small gesture, but I can tell you, when people start doing that, I use the term radical hospitality. When we start practicing that as a community, that starts to create an atmosphere where people really want to be a part of it. So that's the kind of thing we've been talking about with the students at the start of the year.
Absolutely, President Alger. And if I may also just comment that I hope you were able to attend last year's family engagement weekend, because we definitely have more than just 3 food trucks. In fact, we've done a lot within the last year that I've been here under the leadership of Assistant Vice President Dane Hutchinson in my area. But your point is well taken, and that is an area that we're focusing on and ensuring that resources are not only preserved, but as needed, elevated to make sure that the programming is there to celebrate what we do have. We may not have the football team, but we have a great hockey team as well, as one of the parents just mentioned. Everyone, thank you so much for your engagement in the questions that President Alger has asked. We are now going to turn to a few questions that you have submitted out of the many questions you have submitted for President Alger. President Alger, are you ready?
Yes. Thanks, Raymond.
Great. President Alger, what do you see as the biggest challenge for AU, and how do you plan to address it? So a very easy question to start with.
Oh, yes. Well, and the fact of the matter is, we know right now that higher education in this country has, several big challenges. The demographic cliff that some of you have probably heard about that affects enrollment, affordability, which we talked about a little bit, and of course, the value proposition, right? Particularly for private institutions like AU. So that constellation of issues, I think, are some real challenges that we have to face up to. And this feedback is very helpful in that regard. A lot of it starts with that very first question about what differentiates American University, to make sure that people see that there is something distinctive, there's something valuable, there's something different about coming here. And what I've already been hearing a lot, and we heard again tonight, is things like our location in the nation's capital, which brings incredible experiential learning opportunities and partnerships, that we have faculty who are engaged deeply in teaching. This is not a research university where you go and you don't even get to meet the outstanding faculty. The faculty here actually believe in a scholar-teacher model. And it combines sort of the best elements of what you see at small liberal arts colleges with what you get at big research universities. But it's a really important hybrid that is somewhat rare in American higher education. I also think we have to lean into broadening the pool of potential applicants, both nationally and internationally. We're really going to be focusing on financial aid. That was a top priority in the Change Can't Wait campaign, and will continue to be a priority as we move forward. Along with that, of course, is broadening outreach and recruitment efforts, going to new places, not just to the same old places, and reaching students when they're younger, not just seniors in high school. And there are a variety of ways to do that, to let them know about AU. And then finally, of course, the Civic Life Initiative, I hope, will become a signature for American University, because if we can do this well and become known as a place where students really can develop those skills and really can engage in civil discourse across difference, that will be very powerful, and people will want to be a part of that kind of community. So just a few quick thoughts there, Raymond.
Great. Thank you so much, President Alger. And before going on to the next question, if I may make a quick announcement, for any of you who may have specific questions, concerns, or suggestions regarding not only tonight, but specifically about your student or situation, please feel free to email me at rou@american.edu, or feel free to search the website. And certainly the president's office will have an email address as well that we will post in a bit. But if you have specific questions, feel free to forward those questions to me, and we will be more than happy to address any concerns or questions you may have. President Alger, another question before we conclude the evening will be, how will you continue to engage with AU students and help them to feel engaged, safe, and part of our community?
Thank you, Raymond. And again, thanks for this question. So what I can say, first of all, as president, is I'm very committed to being an active, engaged, and accessible leader. That's the leadership style that I bring. I was previously president for 12 years at James Madison University, and that was always what I tried to do. That if you ask students who've been around these last few weeks, I think they tell you they've already seen a lot of me around campus on the quad, in the dining halls, at different events, athletic events, cultural events, artistic events. Those are things where you will see my wife, Marianne, and me consistently trying to interact with students to hear about how their experience is and what we can do to make it even better. And the idea here is that education really is all about relationships, and that's the starting point. And so I try to model that in interacting with students as well as with faculty and staff. And they will be included, of course, in this listening tour. We'll be hearing the voices of students as well as all the other constituents. I've also been meeting, as I mentioned earlier, with community groups and neighbors and talking about things like campus safety, neighborhood safety, how we can cooperate and work with each other. I'm really pleased to see the cooperation that already exists and the fact that those are very strong relationships. And there's good communication and give and take with the community, and a lot of people paying attention to what we can do to make this as safe a community as possible. Because some students might wonder about coming to a big city and what's it going to be like. And of course, the good news is, as most of you know, we are in the safest part of our nation's capital and in a place that really cares about developing that sense of community. And for example, my wife and I late one night took the shuttle bus that a lot of our students ride. I wanted to have that same experience after the AU at the Nats game. We rode the metro and then we took the shuttle bus, and the students were great. They were showing us around, making sure that we were safe, and it was great. It was actually a lot of fun. But we want to make sure that we are paying attention to all aspects of the student experience. And so with that, Raymond, I know we're just about at time, but I did want to thank everybody for participating. And if you didn't have a chance to share something that you would like to share with us, you see there an email address, president@american.edu. And if you think of it, you might just put listening tour feedback in the subject matter line. That will help us to get to the right place. So if you've got specific ideas, suggestions that these questions have helped to prompt, please write to president@american.edu. We really appreciate your being with us this evening, and thank you so much for entrusting your students to American University. We are really excited to be working with all of you and committed to making it an even better experience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, President Alger, and thank you everyone for your questions. And again, if you have specific questions that we were unable to address, or comment specifically about your student, as the Chief Student Affairs Officers, I will be happy to follow up, whether it's financial aid or housing. And to the parent who asked whether or not we are engaging with our students to encourage them to vote, that is absolutely, there is a thriving campaign right now to make sure that our students will be participating in voting. Thank you so much for all of you's participation, and thank you so much to President Alger. And we hope that you will join us for future family webinars as we proceed into the year. Thank you, everybody, and thank you again for the team to make this night a possibility. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you all so much. See you soon on campus. Bye-bye.